The Boy Who Cried Wolf. In a small, peaceful village nestled at the foot of a towering mountain, there lived a young shepherd boy. The village was quaint and surrounded by lush green meadows, where the sheep would graze all day. The villagers relied heavily on their sheep for wool, meat, and milk. Every day, the boy's task was to tend to the flock, guiding them up the hill to graze and ensuring their safety from any dangers lurking in the wild. At first, the boy enjoyed his job, feeling a sense of responsibility. He loved watching over the fluffy, white sheep as they grazed and roamed about the hills. The rhythmic sound of the sheep munching on grass was soothing, and the peaceful surroundings provided a sense of calm. Yet, over time, the boy began to grow restless. His days became predictable and uneventful, and the silence, which once comforted him, now felt like a burden. The only sounds that broke the monotony were the soft bleating of sheep and the rustling of leaves in the wind. One particularly warm afternoon, as the boy lay on the hillside watching the clouds roll by, he felt an overwhelming wave of boredom. His mind, yearning for some excitement, began to wander, and an idea slowly crept into his thoughts. What if he pretended there was a wolf? Surely that would liven up his dull day. The villagers would come rushing to his aid, and he could have a good laugh at their expense. The idea seemed harmless enough, and the boy quickly stood up, ready to put his plan into action. Taking a deep breath, the boy ran to the edge of the field and cupped his hands around his mouth, shouting at the top of his lungs, "Wolf! Wolf! There's a wolf attacking the sheep." His voice echoed across the hills, carrying all the way down to the village below. In an instant, the quiet village erupted into chaos. Men and women dropped their tools, grabbed whatever they could find to defend the flock, and rushed up the hill. Their hearts raced, and fear filled their eyes as they imagined the terrifying beast that was threatening the sheep. Mothers clutched their children, and the elders hobbled as fast as they could, determined to help in any way possible. When the villagers reached the pasture, panting and out of breath, they were met with a surprising sight. The sheep were calmly grazing, and there was no sign of a wolf anywhere. The boy stood off to the side, laughing hysterically at the sight of the confused villagers. "There's no wolf," he cried between fits of laughter. "I was just joking." The villagers, now realizing they had been tricked, were not amused. Angry murmurs spread through the crowd, and some shook their heads in disappointment. "You shouldn't play tricks like that," one of the elders warned sternly. "We came to help because we thought you were in real danger. If you keep doing this, no one will believe you when you truly need help." But the boy, still caught up in his own amusement, shrugged off their warnings. To him, it was just a harmless prank, and he had gotten exactly what he wanted, a break from the boredom. The villagers, although frustrated, returned to their homes and resumed their work, hoping the boy had learned his lesson. Once again, he found himself longing for some excitement. The urge to play the same trick resurfaced, stronger than before. Unable to resist the temptation, the boy ran to the edge of the field and shouted even louder this time, "Wolf! Wolf! There's a wolf attacking the sheep!" His cries echoed through the village once more, and, just like before, the villagers dropped everything and rushed to his aid. This time, they brought even more people, determined to fend off the dangerous predator. But when they arrived at the pasture, they found the same scene as before. The sheep were unharmed, and there was no wolf in sight. The boy stood there, grinning from ear to ear, clearly delighted by the success of his prank. The villagers were furious. "You tricked us again," one man shouted angrily. "We left our work, we rushed here in fear, all for nothing." Another elder stepped forward, her face stern. "Do not cry wolf when there is no danger," she warned. "Someday, there may come a time when we won't believe you, even if the wolf is real." The boy merely shrugged off their warnings once more, thinking little of the consequences. To him, it was all in good fun. The villagers left, shaking their heads in frustration, and the boy returned to his flock, still chuckling to himself. Weeks passed, and the boy continued his routine of watching over the sheep. But the village had grown weary of his antics, and many of the villagers no longer trusted him. They remembered how he had tricked them twice, and even the mere mention of the boy's name would evoke sighs of exasperation. Still, life in the village returned to normal, and the boy, for a time, seemed content with his routine. Then, one day, while the boy was sitting on a rock watching the sheep, something caught his eye in the distance. It was a dark, shadowy figure moving stealthily through the tall grass. His heart skipped a beat as he realized what it was, a wolf, larger and more menacing than he had ever imagined. Its fur was matted, its eyes gleamed with hunger, and it moved with predatory precision, inching closer to the flock. Panic surged through the boy. This was no prank. This time, the danger was real. His legs felt weak beneath him, but he quickly sprang to his feet, shouting as loud as he could, "Wolf! Wolf! There's a wolf attacking the sheep." His voice cracked with fear as he waved his arms frantically, trying to get the villagers' attention. But this time, the villagers did not come. They had heard his cries before and had been fooled twice. They continued with their daily tasks, ignoring his desperate pleas. "He's just playing his old trick again," they said to one another. "There's no wolf. He's only trying to fool us." The boy's cries grew more frantic, but the villagers remained in the village, shaking their heads. "Let him learn his lesson," one villager muttered. "We're not falling for it again." Desperately, the boy tried to fend off the wolf by himself, but the creature was far too powerful. It lunged at the sheep, tearing through the flock with terrifying speed and strength. The boy watched helplessly as the wolf devoured several of the sheep, its sharp teeth gleaming in the sunlight. The once peaceful pasture was now a scene of chaos and destruction. By the time the wolf had finished and disappeared back into the wilderness, the boy was left alone in the field, devastated and surrounded by the remains of his flock. His heart was heavy with guilt and regret. He had been warned, but he had not listened. His foolish tricks had cost him dearly. When the villagers finally came to check on the boy later that evening, they found him sitting amidst the carnage, his face pale and tear-streaked. "The wolf came," he whispered, barely able to meet their eyes. "But no one believed me." The villagers stood in silence, their faces filled with a mix of sorrow and disappointment. "You cried wolf too many times when there was no danger," one of the elders said softly. "When people lose trust in you, even the truth will sound like a lie." The boy learned a painful lesson that day, one that would stay with him for the rest of his life. He realized that trust, once broken, is not easily repaired, and that dishonesty, even in jest, can have serious consequences. From that moment on, he vowed never to deceive the villagers again, understanding now the weight of his actions. And so, the village continued its quiet, peaceful life, but the story of the boy who cried wolf became a lasting reminder to all who heard it.